My name is Linda, and I'm a military wife living on base in Tel Aviv. 6 days ago, my 10-year-old son Benjamin was in a terrible accident during a field trip. He was clinically dead for 18 minutes. The doctors said it was impossible for him to survive without brain damage, but he came back completely fine. What he told me about those 18 minutes has shaken our entire family. Jesus gave him a message about 5 things that are going to happen to America very soon, and I believe every parent needs to hear what my son witnessed. My name is Benjamin, and I'm 10 years old. My dad is a soldier in the Israeli army, and we live on the military base. 6 days ago on August 2nd, I was on a field trip to the Negev desert with my class when a big piece of equipment fell on me and hit my chest and head really hard. Everything went black, and then I wasn't in the desert anymore. At first there was just silence and emptiness everywhere. I started to get scared because I thought maybe this was the end. Then I saw a light that was warm and soft and made me feel safe. All the scared feelings disappeared. I started moving toward the light, and when I got closer I could see colors I've never seen before, and music that sounded like happiness. That's when I saw my great-grandpa David, who died when I was really little. He looked exactly like in pictures, but he was glowing and so happy. When I saw him, I started crying happy tears. He hugged me and said I didn't need to be afraid. Then he got serious and said there was someone who wanted to meet me with an important message I needed to bring back. The light got even brighter, and then I saw Jesus. He didn't look like the pictures in Sunday school. He was so much more amazing. When I looked at him, I felt so much love that I started crying again. His eyes were so deep, like they could see everything that ever happened and everything that would ever happen. Jesus said my name and told me he called me there because he had something really important for me to tell people. Then everything around us changed, and I could see the whole world spread out like a giant map. But I could see light and darkness fighting each other in different places. Jesus made me look at America. He told me he was going to show me 5 things that would happen to America really soon. He said these weren't punishments, but they were like alarm clocks to wake people up before it was too late. The first thing he showed me was really scary. The Lord revealed to me that America's economy would completely fall apart. It wasn't just a recession, but everything breaking down at once. I watched banks closing and people losing all their money and the dollar becoming worthless. I saw families who used to have everything suddenly not able to buy food. People were fighting in the streets. What made me really sad was watching how they acted. Some people finally turned to God when they realized money couldn't save them, but other people got really mean and started fighting with their neighbors. Jesus explained that this shaking would happen because people made money into an idol. The second vision was even worse. I was shown natural disasters hitting America over and over again. Earthquakes that made the ground move like ocean waves. Hurricanes bigger than any I'd ever heard about. Floods that covered entire cities and droughts that turned farms into deserts. Jesus helped me understand that the earth was groaning under all the bad things people had done. He explained that these disasters would make proud people humble and force them to their knees. I watched people helping each other after the disasters. Neighbors who didn't like each other before were suddenly working together. The third thing he showed me made me feel sick. I saw Americans fighting each other in the streets. Cities were burning because people were so angry at each other. Brothers were fighting brothers, and neighbors were fighting neighbors. The Lord revealed to me that this wasn't really about politics. This was about whether people would turn back to God or keep going their own way. Jesus told me that division comes when people reject the unity he offers. The fourth vision shocked me more than anything. I saw America's enemies attacking because they knew America was weak from all the fighting. I was shown cyber attacks that shut down electricity and banks and phones. America couldn't defend itself like it used to. But even in this scary vision, I saw hope. Communities that had gotten stronger from the earlier troubles came together to protect each other. The fifth thing Jesus showed me was completely different. Instead of destruction, I saw a huge spiritual awakening starting to spread across America. It began small but grew really fast like wildfire. I watched people who never prayed before getting on their knees. Churches that had been empty were overflowing. Entire towns were experiencing revival. Jesus explained that this awakening came because of the other 4 catastrophes. The trials had taken away everything people trusted in except God. When they got desperate enough, they finally found their way home. He told me these 5 events would all happen before 2026. Some might happen at the same time and some one after another, but they would all come true. The question wasn't whether they would happen, but how people would respond when they did. Then Jesus showed me something amazing. I could see angels all over America getting ready for battles and preparing to protect people who would call on God's name. He promised that during the darkest times, supernatural protection would be available. Food would come from unexpected places. People who were tired would get strength. He showed me churches that were half empty with people just going through the motions. Jesus said the comfortable church would be shaken. Many people who called themselves Christians had become lukewarm. The trials would separate the real believers from the fake ones. I was shown American families struggling when everything fell apart. But Jesus pointed out families that were thriving in the chaos. These families had built their foundation on faith in God, not on money or security. When food was scarce, they shared with neighbors. When everyone else was scared, they had peace. Jesus said these families would become lighthouses in the storm. Their faith would show their neighbors that God really cares and provides for people who trust Him. He showed me young people across America suddenly waking up to spiritual realities. The crisis had stripped away their phones and distractions. I watched as these young people hungry for truth began seeking God with incredible intensity. They weren't satisfied with shallow religion. They wanted the real thing. The Lord revealed to me that the next great awakening would be led by young people. They would become warriors in God's army, bold witnesses who weren't afraid of anything. Jesus explained how each of the 5 catastrophes would be a catalyst for spiritual awakening. The economic collapse would teach people that their security must be in God alone. The natural disasters would humble human pride. The civil unrest would show there's no unity without the Prince of Peace. The attacks from enemies would drive the nation to its knees in prayer. Jesus turned to me and said I was being shown these things not to scare me but to prepare me. He told me that when I went back, many people wouldn't believe what I saw. They would call me delusional, but he said I couldn't let their skepticism silence my voice. I felt scared about this responsibility. How could I, just a kid, convince people to prepare for what was coming? Jesus smiled at me with so much compassion and said I wouldn't convince them through arguments. I would convince them through the authority that comes from being in His presence. He touched my forehead and immediately I felt strength flowing through me. It wasn't just physical strength but spiritual strength that would help me stand firm no matter what opposition I faced. The light around Him got really intense and I knew our time was ending. But He said something that filled my heart with hope. He said He's coming soon, sooner than most people expect. These 5 events are like birth pangs, signs that His return is close. He told me to tell people to lift up their heads because their redemption is near. Then something amazing started happening. I found myself seeing beyond the 5 catastrophes into the future. The spiritual awakening that started in America spread everywhere like wildfire. From Tokyo to African villages, people everywhere were crying out to God. I saw believers operating in supernatural power like in the book of Acts. The sick were healed, dead people were raised to life. Miracles happened so often they became expected instead of surprising. Jesus explained that signs and wonders are returning. Then I saw what looked like a great divide separating humanity. On one side were those who embraced truth and submitted to God. On the other side were those who hardened their hearts even more. Jesus explained that every person will make their choice. There will be no middle ground. The Lord revealed to me that time is shorter than anyone realizes. These 5 events would unfold rapidly, one after another like dominoes falling. The economic collapse will trigger natural disasters. The natural disasters will fuel civil unrest. The civil unrest will invite attacks from enemies. And through it all, the Great Awakening will intensify. Jesus showed me families who heeded warnings and prepared not just physically but spiritually. When storms came, they were ready. They had food stored, but more importantly, they had faith stored. He explained that preparation isn't just about stockpiling goods. It's about stockpiling faith and building relationships with Him. Jesus took my hands and the love that flowed through that touch healed every wound in my heart instantly. He said to remember that behind every catastrophe is His call to repentance. Behind every disaster is His invitation to return home. These events aren't His wrath, but His love being extended one final time. The light pulsed with intensity and I knew my time with Him was ending. Jesus commanded me to go and tell what I've seen. Warn what's coming. Prepare people for the choice they must make. And remember always that He's with me and nothing can separate me from His love. Then I woke up in the hospital. My mom was crying and holding my hand. The doctors were shocked I was alive and that my brain worked perfectly. But I knew it was a miracle. God brought me back for a specific purpose. I told my mom and dad everything Jesus showed me. We spent hours talking about the 5 events and what our family needs to do to prepare. Not just storing food and water, but preparing our hearts and getting right with God. Jesus made it clear to me that the message is urgent and the time is short. America stands at a crossroads and everyone must choose which path they'll take. The 5 catastrophes are coming, but so is the greatest spiritual awakening in human history. I'm just a 10-year-old kid, but Jesus chose me to share what he revealed. The choice of how to respond is yours, but I'm telling you what I saw, because Jesus commanded me to warn everyone while there's still time.